because it's still speculation.
Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at a Haggerty10 Twitter handle. You know that by now. And I'm joined this morning by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald. Good morning, Aidan.
Morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm all right. Wonder what we'll talk about. We'll talk about that in the fullness of time. And I'll just direct everybody to the ticker tape running along the bottom of your screen. Got a good deal for you guys. We've always got a deal, but this one's a good one. You subscribe to the Celtic Way. The first 100 new subscribers will receive a limited edition A3 artwork of Callum McGregor by popular Celtic artist made by Frankie, all for the click of a button, guys. And you will also, for £1, you will also receive 4 months unlimited access to everything that we do on the website. So that's £1 for 4 months, and the first new 100 subscribers get, as you can see on the screen, that limited edition A3 artwork of Callum McGregor by popular Celtic artist made by Frankie. Click of a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to our new sponsors, SENECA Medical Group. The Celtic Way Pod, or Celtic Way Morning Briefing, is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group, and SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Aidan, how are you?
Yeah, Tony, all good. Of course, another sort of Giakoumakis transfer-related topic to kick us off today. It's like the never-ending saga, isn't it? Well, that's what it seems like anyway.
It is a never-ending saga, Aidan, and I wrote a piece yesterday in the hope that it would be... It was my kind of appeal for sanity and for everybody to get round the table and maybe for Giakoumakis to sign a new deal. And I thought that his cryptic Instagram message, you can read that 2 ways. I'll put the link to the article there. There it is. You can have a wee read at that. But now, various reports, Aidan, from journalists all over the world, and Fabrizio Romano being one of them, saying that Celtic have agreed a deal. It's worth €4 million, which is just over £3.5 million, which is £1 million more than they paid for Giakoumakis. It's all very strange, Aidan, isn't it? You know, the Urawa Red Diamonds deal. It's just no one officially has come out and said anything. It's Celtic. Giakoumakis hasn't said anything. His agents haven't said anything. I don't know. I just find it all. It's now turning into a bit of a saga, but I think the most relaxed man about it all has been the Celtic manager, Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, I mean, every presser really since the sort of links came out about Giakoumakis and Juranovic, the manager's made clear, you know, they're available, they're in, they're training hard, they're working hard. We've not heard anything, so we know obviously he's got a press conference later on today. That might potentially change, which would then be the sort of first sort of concrete evidence that Giakoumakis could be out the door from the actual club's point of view. But so far, Ange seems quite relaxed and he's been quite happy to play both players, as we obviously seen on Saturday.
Yes, and these last couple of games, he's made a sterling contribution. He smacked the bar twice against Kilmarnock in the league game at Celtic Park, and then came on and scored the clinching goal, tap Saf celebration, as you'll see if you read the piece that I did, and then the cryptic message, you know, on to the final, stuff like that. And I think with those kind of words, he gave the Celtic fans hope that he might actually sign a new deal, or he certainly might stay till the end of the season. And, you know, so it's all... I don't know, it's all very bizarre, isn't it? There's nothing official. And until it's official, then I think you have to work in the premise that whilst he's still a Celtic player, the manager will continue to play him and he'll still continue to give 100%. Because I was also making the point that players in the past, he's still got the support of the support, if you get what I mean. And the unwavering, he's very much a fan's favourite. And he didn't get any boo boy treatment on Saturday, which other players have suffered from in the past. You know, he's still a popular player at this club.
Yeah, he's by no means down tools, has he? He's been featured regularly, obviously. He hadn't scored, I don't think, since the break before his sort of strike against Kilmarnock the other day. But Yeah, he's been featured and he's always been working hard. I think we'd actually mentioned after, might have been the Hibs 4-0 game, that when he came on, even though he didn't score, it was very much, putting himself about and getting involved in the game. He didn't look like somebody that was holding back or not wanting to get injured in case it jeopardised a transfer sort of thing. And obviously, it was quite right. It would have been quite harsh, I think, if he had been getting booed off the fans at the weekend. I know there's also been previous examples. The most sort of recent one I can think of is Dedrick Boyata, when he sort of, he did down tools, didn't he? He refused to play in a Champions League qualifier and then received probably, I think it was a bit controversial at the time, but you could understand why fans were frustrated with him, given he didn't play in such a crucial match. But there's nothing like that with Giakoumakis or Juranovic. They both just seem to be getting on with it, which is exactly what you want to happen if you do find yourself in this situation, Tony.
Chris Murray says, until Ange or Celtic come out and confirm he has left, I will not believe any paper/social media talk. I think a lot of Celtic supporters feel that way until it's official. Get your comments coming in, guys. Want to know your thoughts. Chris Sutton was also speaking about it. Aidan, he took to Twitter and he said, I'm not sure what goes on behind the scenes and who may be coming in the door, but this seems bonkers, letting Giakoumakis go right now for such a small fee. There's a league to win. Now, obviously, everybody knows he signed for Celtic August 2021 from VVV Venlo in Holland. He was the top scorer, $2.5 million it costs. And in his 18 months here at Celtic, he scored 26 goals in 56 games and won the league and the League Cup. Those are decent figures, Aidan. Decent figures in terms of goal scoring rate. Not decent figures when you look at the transfer fee that's allegedly been agreed.
Yeah, I think everybody was sort of surprised to hear the sort of $3.5-4 million transfer fee that was quoted for Giakoumakis to go to the J League in this sort of most recent report. It is a bit frustrating, given how many goals he's scored. The fact that he has also got a goal in the Champions League there, Champions League minutes also in the CV. He obviously, I think he got 17 goals last season, and I think he's scored 10 times for club and country in this recent campaign. So that is a bit of a tough one to take with the fee, given that he's still got a good chunk of time left in his contract, even the summer, never mind now. And I think also another aspect is the sort of time of the sale, if he was to go, the fact that you are in the middle of the season. And I'm sure with Andrew's recruitment, there will be a replacement lined up, but at the moment, they're not in. So, to lose a striker right in the sort of middle of the season, which for at least a short period anyway, would potentially only leave you with one striker in Kyogo, when you're still very much going for, if we just look at the immediate future, a league and a League Cup anyway, it's not the best timing, I would say, Tony. And yeah, the transfer fee as well is probably not what we'd hoped. I know we've discussed a lot about transfer fees really since Juranovic was first getting linked away, in terms of how much we thought we would get. I think we all kind of agreed that it probably wouldn't be the sort of big bucks for Juranovic that was getting quoted, but we hoped it would still be a significant fee. And then obviously there's been recent links that have sort of tapered that down a wee bit. With Giakoumakis, I think we all, regardless of what we thought of him personally, I think we all hoped that we would get more than $3.5-4 million for him. Obviously, that isn't confirmed, but yeah, if that does end up being the transfer fee and he does go in January, I'll be quite disappointed. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if that's the fee that they're talking about, it's very disappointing because if you've already highlighted, he has scored in the Champions League and he is worth certainly more than £1 million more than what Celtic paid for him. Again, it's all coming from various sources, isn't it? Don't know how legitimate they are. And again, we don't know, as I've said before, the only ones that can clarify this are Giakoumakis, Celtic, and his agents. Chris Sutton here doesn't know what's going on behind the scenes. I think that's the problem here. Nobody actually knows what's going on behind the scenes and why Celtic are willing to sell or why Giakoumakis wants to leave. And until somebody comes out and actually makes some kind of statement on that, the manager might do it today. But I'm always guided by what the manager says, and he goes by what the players do at training. And nobody values his contribution more than the manager, Giakoumakis. So, and I see Beach Boys put in a comment there about he was getting booed on Saturday. I never heard that, Aidan. Did you hear him getting booed on Saturday? I have to say.
No, well, I was at the game just as a punter for it, and I didn't hear him getting booed personally where I was.
Beach Boy said you must have had earplugs in. I was behind the goals, and I can assure he was getting booed and whistle when he came on. He wants to leave Celtic, not Celtic getting rid of him. That may well be the
wasn't
case.
what I heard, to be honest, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't hear it either, so I guess I'm not discounting that happened, but I didn't hear it, so that's why I was saying he's still largely a firm fan's favourite, and a lot of people don't want him to leave the club. But
Yeah, no, I think given his goals record, how effective he's been, and like you say, obviously the fans have got that song for him and stuff. I don't think a majority of people, I would say, in my opinion, don't want him to move on. But it has been a sort of link that's not really went away, a bit like the Juranovic one.
yeah,
And when you start, obviously there's been a lot of links. It's been hard to keep up at times, but when you start to hear, potentially agreeing deals and medicals, that is when it starts to usually sort of be coming near an end, then being the person then leaving the club. But I think Andrew's presser later on will be quite interesting, Tony. I know obviously me and you will be watching it quite closely, so I think all eyes on what the manager's going to say with regards to Giakoumakis.
Yes. Pete McGee comes in and says, as far as he's aware, nobody in this podcast is, no one on the podcast has inside information about or from GG, so don't believe the hype. Let's wait to see the truth of all of this. Until then, don't panic, Mr. Mainwaring. I think that's a quote from Dad's Army. I would believe, Aidan, probably well before your time. Well, it was well before your time, so
you beat me to it, Tony. That's exactly what I was going to say.
You could ask your father about that. Don't panic, Captain Managerial, that kind of thing. Dad's Army, I think. Pete McGee will confirm that because I wasn't a big Dad's Army fan myself. Never really watched it, so he can confirm that if that's where it's from. But I think it is. Now, Celtic, in one of the newspapers this morning, Aidan, have been linked with, okay, we'll call it a replacement if Giorgos Giakoumakis goes, and that player is Kevin Nisbet of Hibs. Lots of Celtic supporters saying that they don't think that Kevin Nisbet's the man to replace Giorgos Giakoumakis, and they need somebody who can score goals at Champions League level and take Celtic onto that next level. They don't feel that he's the man. Others saying that Kevin Nisbet's a very good goal scorer for Hibs and they would be a good player for Celtic. But it's kind of the resurrection of interest that Celtic had a couple of years ago in Nisbet, and then he got injured and he was out for a very long time. So what's your thoughts on that? Would you be happy to see Kevin Nisbet come if Giakoumakis leaves, or would you rather see Giakoumakis stay and Nisbet come in anyway, just to have that kind of feel safe of if somebody gets injured in terms of the striking department?
So I know this isn't really, what I'm going to say isn't really how transfers work, but it depends on the context of Kevin Nisbet coming in. If he is in as somebody who can score goals domestically, then that'd be fine. But I don't. Would I want him as a direct replacement for Giakoumakis? I don't know, Tony.
Yeah,
I know Giakoumakis only got the one goal in Europe this season, so you could say the person coming in is sort of it's the goals domestically you're trying to replace, and I do think Nisbet is pretty good. Obviously, since he came back in, I think it's 7 goals in the last 6 games for Hibs, which is a really good strike rate. He's very much a sort of informed striker in the league. I just don't know if he's the person to push Kyogo, never mind hopefully bring in somebody that's better than Kyogo. Now, people might disagree with that, which is fine, but I don't know, Tony. He'd be more somebody that if you already maybe had 2 strikers that were vying for the first place, and like for example, Giakoumakis did stay, and you wanted to just sort of bolster your attacking options, that would be a brilliant signing in that case. But in terms of somebody, would you want Kevin Nisbet leading the line should Kyogo get injured? Say it's Kyogo and Nisbet till the end of the season. We know Kyogo's injury record, it's not been great. Would you then want to bring in Kevin Nisbet and he's the person that's got to play 10, 12 games because Kyogo's injured? I don't know, Tony, personally.
John Boyd comes in and says we're better going for Rab C Nisbet. So there you go. Yeah, you know, it's very much polarised opinion, and Derek Crawford agreeing with you, Aidan, 100% Aidan, third choice at best. Other people saying that he wants to play for Celtic. David Ferguson coming in. Is Nisbet going to push Diogo to be a better player. That's kind of what you're alluding to there. I think Celtic supporters feel that Kevin Nisbet would be a step down in terms of ability when you're comparing the players from Giakoumakis, and that's no slight on Nisbet, because Nisbet's a very good player. He's a very good player domestically, but I think Celtic fans are hoping that they bring in somebody better than Giakoumakis, assuming Giakoumakis leaves, or certainly someone of the same calibre, and that they've done their homework and scouted around. And again, we go back to Aidan. It's all premised on if Giorgos Giakoumakis leaves. Now, there's 2 weeks left in the transfer window, exactly. And Ange himself was saying the other day that lots of the stuff you read about Celtic isn't true. I think one of the commenters said 10%. He's saying that 10% of stuff written about Celtic turns out to be true, and they heard it off somebody's barber's uncle or something like that was the quote, wasn't it? So we are premising this. It's hit the public domain. We're talking about it, but there is no, to our knowledge so far, there is no truth. Well, not so much truth, but it's not been confirmed, has it, that Giakoumakis is going to sign for Urawa Red Diamonds for that price? And it's not a given that he will leave the club.
No, nothing's been confirmed, and definitely nothing's a given. It's just obviously the fact that it's dragging on is probably starting to frustrate fans a wee bit, which I can understand. I think similar to sort of the Cho deal, which I'll not mention too much because I know that's been discussed at this point. But obviously that was one that was sort of dragging on, which it looks like at the moment anyway that could potentially be dead in the water. I can understand when things kind of move on for ages and ages, or go on, I should say. People start to get a wee bit annoyed regardless of what the sort of outcome is of it in the end. I just think the timing in the season to lose Giakoumakis would be a bit of a blow, Tony. Regardless of the transfer fee, it would just be a blow losing a player of that quality. But just need to wait and see. And like we've already mentioned, all eyes on Andrew's presser for later on, see what happens.
Yes, correct, yeah. Lots of people coming in, comments coming in. Aidan, I'll just flick a couple of them up. Michael Ross saying Nisbet's not good enough for the Champions League. I think that's what a lot of Celtic supporters fear, don't they? That they want somebody who can lead the line in the Champions League. And Jerry McCann comes in and says, are we saying all of this because he's Scottish or because he plays for Hibs? It's a fair point, Jerry. I think Nisbet's a highly talented.
Just basing it off what I've seen of him, to be honest. I don't think he's a bad player by any stretch, but I just wonder in terms of Andrew's style and just going to European level, you'd be signing somebody with kind of little to no European experience in terms of playing up front at that level. Now, I know Kyogo and Giakoumakis were signed without any European experience, which I understand, but that was when Andrew was still building the squad. If you're potentially into your 18 months into that, or if this was all happening in the summer, sort of in your third season of that, I don't think you want to be bringing in a striker that could potentially be first or second choice. Doesn't need to be Champions League experience, but doesn't have experience playing in Europe of some sort, whether that's in the sort of a European League or a Europa League, Conference League, or whatever. But then that's all subjective, isn't it? You know, because you could bring somebody in from Japan like we've brought in recently, with no European experience, and they turn out to be excellent. So that's probably just a preference for me. I don't think the manager probably would select based off that. But.
Sure, of course. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, Jason Mudgard comes in and says, what about a Moussa Dembele return? That would be wonderful.
The dream, Jason.
All right, okay, so you're
I'm now on the Dembele. I never got off the Dembele hype train, Tony, I'll be honest. One of my favourite players of I don't like to be dramatic and say ever at Celtic, but in recent years, he was absolutely superb. But I think we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, Tony, didn't we? That as much as I think he could go in the summer for nothing, sign a pre-contract in January because his deal's up at Lyon come the end of the season, probably wages-wise just a bit out of Celtic's sort of reach at this point, I would guess.
Yeah. Jerry McCann comes back in, Aidan, and says, I think if Celtic want Nisbet, then they need to give him a chance. How do you know what he's going to be like in the Champions League? I think you need to trust in him and the club if that's who Celtic want to be fair, and AJSC Tech comes in. To be fair, Kyogo wasn't good enough for the Champions League, so do we sell him on that logic? Nisbet can develop and is a great finisher and good in the air. So it's contrasting opinion on Kevin Nisbet, Aidan, and also, strikers who didn't score in the Champions League like Kyogo last year. Giakoumakis got one, but I think everything was a learning curve for Celtic in the Champions League last year. All the players were getting used to playing at that level. You'd hope that they will have learnt a lot from that experience, but you would like to go into the Champions League with a settled striker, wouldn't you? And somebody
that would be ideal. I think just in terms of also Kyogo not scoring in the Champions League, the comment was also completely right about that. But if we're wanting overall to sort of improve the team and level up in every position, then you would imagine that somebody with European experience would be preferred if it came down to that. When Nisbet, look, if he comes in, he's going to have my full backing. And I don't think he's a bad player by any stretch. I think he's a very good player. And I've seen him a few times when I've went to watch Scotland before he got his injury, which I know is going back a wee while now, and I thought he looked pretty good. It's just about trying to up-level the squad, Tony, isn't it? And I understand you're not going to be able to do that when it comes to second and third choice strikers, because Celtic, just not the way they're going to do business. You're not going to sign, not that money's a guarantee of quality, but they're not going to sign, 3 strikers for 6 million or something like that, right? Each. That's just not going to happen. But I don't know. But to be fair, it could be a sort of bias because he plays in Scotland. But I've been quite happy when we've signed players from Scotland before. Like when Celtic signed David Turnbull, and what was a few years ago, I was really excited about that. I thought he was sort of best young player in the country at the time, and I wouldn't be annoyed if Celtic signed this, but just as I was mentioning earlier, it'd be the context of signing.
Well, Andrew Hunter says no chance we could get Dembele now. He's out with Celtic pay grade. And Beach Boys signed Dembele with the laughing emojis, so that's where he stands on that one.
Really a dream, sadly, Tony.
So, and John Hill comes in and says, Ange Postecoglou have been talking to a striker since the day GG goes. No way Ange would let Giorgos Giakoumakis go without a replacement. Well, I have faith in that kind of process, and I trust that process because he told you he's been working to 2 windows in advance, and he's trying to preempt things, and so that you're not scrambling about. So again, I go back to it that until such things are confirmed, then I'll just take it for what it is, So it's until I actually see that Giakoumakis has left the door, then I'm still willing to think that he might stay even beyond January, because
until it's confirmed.
Now. Yeah, correct.
Until it's confirmed, the hope is that obviously he will stay. I think the concern would be that if he is going to leave, but it drags on right to the very last day, and then that doesn't allow Celtic to then get a replacement in. But I don't think you could be fully blaming the Giakoumakis deal for that. I would still be saying, I think we've mentioned that we'd be hoping they'd be able to go and get another striker regardless to try and challenge either the 2 or Kyogo. So I would hope that it wouldn't come to that, even if the Giakoumakis deal does drag on. But obviously, that is always a concern, isn't it? Because they've kind of been burned by that in the past. The prime example being, or to be fair, when Dembele left, I know they'd already signed Edouard, but at that time you did go from having 3 strikers to 2, and then Dembele just left right at the end of the window. So that was a bit frustrating. But hopefully it won't be a situation like that. Tony, if he is moving on, it does kind of progress relatively quickly now, and the replacement comes in not too soon after that.
Now Gordon Coney comes in and says Scott McDonald was signed from Motherwell and scored in the Champions League. No reason why Nisbet couldn't do the same.
No, there isn't any reason. There isn't any reason.
I'll premise with if they sign Nisbet, of course.
Yeah, no, if he comes in, I'm sure he could do a good job. It's just personal preference, isn't it?
And Plunge McNugget comes in and says, if Nisbet bangs the goals in, you will all change your mind. I don't have anything against Nisbet. I think he's an excellent footballer, and he does know the way to go. And again, like you said, Aidan, if he comes in, he'll get the support of everybody at the club, and it will remain to be seen if he can do it at Champions League level. But if that's who Celtic are genuinely interested in, again, speaking about this,
we don't know that.
One of the newspapers have reported that they've rekindled their interest. And again, once these things happen, opinion is polarised and divided. And but if you're basing it off what you've seen from Nisbet so far, then he's a very accomplished Scottish striker. And I think one of the commenters earlier said, and I meant to flick it up, that maybe need Scottish players for the Champions League. So maybe that's the thinking behind that.
That's a point worth raising, Tony. I mean, because there's obviously always kind of, or there has been in the last couple of transfer windows, stuff about potentially, Stephen Welsh moving on, or
I
think the summer James McCarthy, because obviously he was sort of trained in Scotland. He counted as a homegrown player. You'd imagine the club would try to move him on. So that's two homegrown players that would be gone. Mikey Johnson, we don't know what his future is, or even Scott Robertson. So that would be losing. You'd only really have then Greg Taylor, Alan McGregor, and James Forrest in terms of homegrown players there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So it could be that. Sorry, no, Greg Taylor wouldn't count because it's just purely for the academy. So you'd only have two there really that'd be in the sort of first team squad unless you were going to suddenly promote a lot of them from the academy. So that could be another thing worth considering as well. That's probably a decent point worth raising in terms of Nisbet.
Just Derek Crawford comes in again and says that Nisbet is not mobile enough for him. I mean, everybody has their opinion on certain players, and I'm not going to knock that. My own personal opinion on this is I'm desperate for Giakoumakis to stay. I think he's a great goal scorer. I think that just the physical attributes that he brings as well. He can rummel up defences, as they say. He's a nuisance. He's a pest. And again, I don't know what has happened, and I don't know how much money he's looking for, if it is money at all, or if it's more game time. But I just think at some point, common sense could have prevailed in this situation, and that they could have got round the table and given him, without busting the bank or moving heaven and earth, given him what he wanted, if it was money. But there's no reassurance or assurances of game time. The manager uses him if and when he needs to. And I don't know if it's, again, agents filling their head full of nonsense. You can get this X amount here, you want to go there, that kind of stuff. But the manager said it. Good luck with finding that utopia and football happiness elsewhere, because you're playing for a club that's competing in Europe at the highest level. It's competing for silverware every season, playing at a very, very good level, and you've got the support of 60,000 people every other week, and they're all on your side. Where are you going to get that, Aidan, elsewhere? And I know the one thing you will get, maybe somewhere else, is more money. And if that's your God, then so be it. But tell everybody, let everybody know that's why you've left. And I think it's the whole cloak and dagger operation about this Giakoumakis thing and the uncertainty and being in the dark that is annoying the Celtics, or irking the Celtic supporters a wee bit, because they do like this guy, but the manager has also primed them and said, don't fall in love with him, don't get too close. So you have that in the back of your mind as well, that there are favourites going to leave at some point, and this could well be that window where the start of that kicks in.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of football, isn't it? Particularly when, by and large, Celtic are kind of in that selling club model. When a player does really well, they kind of within a year, or maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, tend to move on. It's just kind of the way things are. I think in terms of the guarantee of game time, I mean, we've seen Ange's quite happy to rotate. I mean, Jota being a prime example of that. I know he had a bit of a sickness bug in there as well recently, but there was also games that he did just kind of start on the bench because he maybe wasn't playing to his best. So, if somebody's important than that is going to be left out, that kind of just shows that nobody's really safe in terms of the team. Probably outside of maybe Joe Hart, just because of the sort of nature of that position at the moment, with Siegrist being out injured. Nobody's really a guaranteed starter. So I think the manager won't have really said to anybody, you're playing every game for me.
Yeah.
Maybe, but even with Callum McGregor, he is probably maybe the exception, that role, more than Joe Hart, in terms of just plays all the time. But I don't doubt that if he suddenly started really struggling, which is probably, we can't really imagine that for Callum McGregor, because a bit like Carter Vickers, he's Mr. Consistent. But outside of that, everybody else is probably, you've got to earn your place based off you're only as good as your last training session, last game, etc. So I don't think the manager would have made any sort of guarantees, even if Giakoumakis got an improved deal, for example, at Celtic, which doesn't look like it's going to happen at the moment. I don't think more game time would be a part of that, Tony, personally, just based off what we know about Ange. And just when we're touching on Ange here, I think that's probably why he is so relaxed about this whole thing.
Yeah.
His comments at the AGM probably reflect his sort of thinking on that don't fall in love with players your favourites could leave if I'm wanting to improve my squad or just because of the nature of the market. So if we're taking that sort of philosophy a few months on from the AGM, that's probably why he feels the way he does right now and why he's publicly, anyway, quite relaxed about the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, I go back to even on Saturday, he was asked about it, and he said that there would be no concrete offers. If you got offers in concrete, we wouldn't deal with them anyway. We said Michael Nicholson deals with that side until he gets involved, and at this moment in time, he said he didn't have to be involved. So again, call it paper talk, call it speculation, call it what you like. Again, I'm working on the premise that until something is totally firmed up and it becomes, till it becomes concrete and it does happen, then it's not I'm refusing to believe stuff. I've just, unless Celtic, Giakoumakis or Ange confirm it, then I'll wait and see. I mean, it'll play out the way it plays out. All sorts of narratives here, but again, the three main protagonists haven't really spoke, have they? Giakoumakis, Ange Postecoglou, Celtic, and the agents. So until you get some kind of definitive from them, then he's a Celtic player. You work on that premise, and the way he's playing, it's certainly not affecting anything.
No, his performances have been fine. I mean, the only thing before the game at the weekend had been missing was a goal after the sort of World Cup break. But after, I was quite happy when he got his goal at the weekend, kind of hoping that this would then maybe kickstart a wee run of him getting some goals and maybe starting games or so. But then obviously this sort of next update came out about him, so we'll just need to wait and see. I think, don't want to repeat the point too much because I know I've mentioned that a few times, but I think the Ange presser later on will be quite interesting. If it's still the same sort of line that we've had really since the links first appeared about, nope, they're training well, they're working hard, they're available for the next game, which is obviously St Mirren tomorrow night, then I don't think he'll be away in the sort of immediate future, personally, as in like the next week or so. But if it's maybe a wee bit more vague, and then obviously the next step comes tomorrow night when you're seeing the team news and he's nowhere to be seen, that would then say to me, based off what we've seen with other players in the past, that he's probably on the road out personally, Tony. And that'd be the first sort of real indication of that as well.
Yeah. Derek Crawford comes in and says, any news on Greg Taylor again? We'll maybe find out more about that today. Celtic will be doing a presser today, Derek, and we'll get an update on that, definitely. But yeah, I agree with that. We've gone 33 minutes, Aidan, and we haven't even spoken about the St Mirren game tomorrow night. There you go, St Mirren being the only team to defeat Celtic this season 2-0 earlier on in the season. Poor performance from Celtic and Paisley that day. We will be doing our predicted 11s. What a task that'll be. The three of us,
Always
I think.
A pleasure. Always a
Yes,
pleasure.
indeed. That'll be hilarious to see what 11 we'll pick. But there you go. Whether Giorgos Giakoumakis will feature in any of our predicted 11s, Aidan, there you go. But yes, Celtic play St Mirren tomorrow night. We'll preview that, as always, tomorrow at 10 o'clock or thereabouts. Pete McGee, I hope you were delighted today. We kind of got there at 10 o'clock, didn't we, fella? Put 26 names in a hat, he's saying, for the predicted 11s. And Kaiser comes in. GG starts. There you go. There's a confident prediction from Kaiser, indeed. But guys, thanks for the comments. It's been kind of a one-topic discussion today, but it's a big topic, isn't it? And we like to chew the fat over these things, and we like to get canvass your opinion as well, because we learn through that too. We hope you've enjoyed it. I'll just direct you once again to the ticker tape at the bottom. We've got a new subscription offer. Subscribe to the Celtic Way website. It's £1 for 4 months of unlimited access to everything that's written on the website, and the first 100 new subscribers will get that free E3 Callum McGregor print by popular artists made by Frankie. It's a really good deal, guys. So click the button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also thank our new sponsors, SENECA. And SENECA sponsor the Celtic Way morning briefing, sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe and offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description in this video. Now, guys, thank you. Enjoyed that. It's always great to see your opinions. Have a terrific Tuesday if you can. We move on to Wednesday. St Mirren coming to Celtic Park. Maybe revenge in the air, Aidan.
Hopefully, Tony, because I really don't fancy another briefing on Thursday like that after that last game, because that wasn't fun, was it?
It wasn't. And we'll end with this. Great show, lads. Jimmy McGrory scored 8 goals on this day in 1928 and a 9-0 win. There you go. Don't know if anybody will predict 9-0 for tomorrow night, Aidan, but we'll see. Thanks for that, Pete McGee. Yes, the legendary Jimmy McGrory, wonderful goal scorer for Celtic. I think that's a nice high to end the topic or the briefing on today. We'll be talking about strikers all the time, haven't we? So, yeah, we'll end with that. Jimmy McGrory, 8 goals. Well done, Jimmy. Appreciate that. Cheers for that, Pete. Thanks, Aidan. Brilliant contribution today. Top man. Take it easy, eh?
Cheers, guys.